The philosophy of freedom. Willie's code of living. Willie Nelson didn't just sing about freedom, he lived by it. His entire life was a quiet rebellion against conformity, authority, and materialism. His personal philosophy could be summed up in a few core beliefs. Live simply, love deeply, work hard, speak truth, respect the earth, fight for the underdog. He never owned a mansion. He lived modestly on his ranch in Luck, Texas. He drove old trucks, wore the same clothes for years, and gave away much of what he earned. When asked why he didn't live like a typical celebrity, he said, "I don't need more than I have. I've got music, family, and a clear conscience." This wasn't humility. It was intentional living, a rejection of excess in favor of meaning, in a world obsessed with wealth and status. Willie chose peace over power, connection over control, and in doing so, he became a role model, not just for musicians, but for anyone seeking a more authentic life. The cannabis crusader, a lifelong advocate, Willie Nelson, has been open about his lifelong use of marijuana not as a recreational habit, but as a spiritual, medicinal, and political practice. He first smoked at 17 while working in the fields. He later said, "It helped me see the beauty in things, the sky, the grass, the way people move." In 1977, he was arrested for possession in Alabama. He spent a night in jail and lost all his belongings except Trigger. The experience radicalized him. By the 1980s, he became one of the most visible advocates for marijuana decriminalization. In 2015, he launched Willie's Reserve, a legal cannabis brand that promotes quality and safety sustainable farming, social justice reform, expungement of past convictions. He also founded Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery, producing organic spirits and hemp-based products. But more than business, his advocacy is moral. He believes marijuana prohibition has ruined lives, especially among the poor and marginalized. He once said, "Marijuana's not a drug. It's a plant. And it's been healing people since before we had words." To this day, he carries a small bag of weed in his pocket, not for indulgence, but as a symbol of resistance. The Activist, Farm Aid, and the Fight for Family Farmers, 1985. After hearing country singer John Mellencamp speak about the farm crisis, Willie co-founded Farm Aid with Neil Young and Mellencamp. At the time, thousands of family farmers were losing their land due to debt, corporate consolidation, and government policy. Banks were foreclosing. Families were breaking apart. Farm Aid's mission was simple: keep family farmers on their land. Since its inception, Farm Aid has raised over $60 million, held annual benefit concerts featuring hundreds of artists, provided direct grants to struggling farmers, advocated for fair agricultural policies, promoted sustainable local food systems. Willie didn't just lend his name, he led. He toured relentlessly, spoke at rallies, visited farms, and used every interview to educate the public. He often says, "If you eat, you're involved in agriculture." That simple truth became the foundation of his activism. Even at 90 plus, he still headlines Farm Aid, sitting on a stool with Trigger, singing Whiskey River as the sun sets over the festival grounds. Farm Aid isn't just a concert, it's a movement, and Willie is its heart. The collaborator, Willie, and the artists who loved him. Willie Nelson's influence extends far beyond country music because of his collaborative spirit. He never saw music as competition. He saw it as conversation. Over his career, he recorded with artists from every genre. Ray Charles, their duet on Seven Spanish Angels, 1984, is a gospel country masterpiece. Julio Iglesias, their unlikely 1984 duet album, brought country and Latin pop together. Snoop Dogg, they smoked together, joked on podcasts, and bonded over shared advocacy. Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson, the Highwaymen weren't just a band. They were brothers. Norah Jones, his daughter-in-law and musical partner, with whom he recorded jazz-inflected albums, Dolly Parton a lifelong friendship and multiple duets, including the classic Pretty Paper, Sheryl Crow, Mavis Staples, Bob Dylan, Steven Tyler all have performed with him. Drawn by his warmth and artistry, what made these collaborations work was Willie's humility. He didn't dominate. He listened. He adapted. He elevated others, as Chris Christopherson once said. Willie doesn't steal the spotlight. He shares it. The writer beyond songwriting, books, poetry, and thought, Willie Nelson, is not only a songwriter, he is a writer in the fullest sense. He has authored or co-authored over 10 books, blending memoir, philosophy, fiction, and activism. Notable titles include Willie, an autobiography 1988, a raw, honest account of his life, struggles, and beliefs. The Tao of Willie, a guide to the happiness in your heart to 5A. Spiritual memoir blending Eastern philosophy, country wisdom, and humor. Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die. Musings from the Road 2012. A collection of reflections, jokes, and life lessons. Me and Sister Bobby 2020 Corrigan with his late sister. A touching tribute to their bond. Willie Nelson's Letters to America. 2021. A curated collection of open letters on music, love, and justice. His writing style mirrors his music. Simple, direct, full of soul. He doesn't write to impress. He writes to connect. He also published poetry, often scribbled on napkins or backstage notes. One poem, Homeless, about a man sleeping under a bridge, was read in Congress during a debate on poverty. Willie proved that art isn't confined to one medium. Truth can be sung, spoken, or written, and it's still truth. The teacher mentoring the next generation, though never a formal teacher. Willie Nelson has mentored countless young artists through example, collaboration, and generosity. He opened doors for Lucas and Micah Nelson, his sons, who carry on his legacy with integrity and innovation. Zach Bryan, who credits Willie with showing him that authenticity matters more than polished. Tyler Childers, who calls him the grandfather of Outlaw. Thought, Charlie Crockett, a modern troubadour, who channels Willie's phrasing and spirit. Margot Price, who says Willie taught her that country music can be both personal and political. He doesn't give lectures. He leads by being himself. At Farm Aid, he invites young artists to perform, often joining them on stage unannounced. At Luck, Texas, he hosts impromptu jam sessions where unknown songwriters sit beside legends. He once told a young singer, "Don't try to sound like me. Just be honest." That's the only thing people remember. And in that moment, he passed the torch. The final reflection. Why he still matters, because truth is timeless. Because a voice that sings from the soul will never fade. Willie Nelson matters because he refused to pretend. He didn't hide his past. He didn't sugarcoat life. He sang it loud, clear, and beautiful. And in doing so, he gave voice to millions who felt invisible. The last word. The man who never left. Willie Nelson may one day die, but he will never really leave. He lives in the strum of trigger on a back porch, the silence before the final note of blue eyes crying in the rain, the tears of a fan hearing on the road. Again, for the first time, the strength of a farmer who sings his songs while plowing a field. He was not a hero. He was not a saint. He was a man broken, brilliant, and brave enough to sing the truth. And in doing so, he became immortal. So play the record, turn off the lights, close your eyes, and let Willie Nelson sing to you one last time. The voice in the digital age. Nelson's legacy in the streaming era, and an era dominated by auto-tune, fleeting fame, and algorithm-driven playlists. Willie Nelson's voice stands as a timeless monument to authenticity and emotional depth. His recordings made decades ago feel startlingly present, like they were recorded yesterday. This is not nostalgia. It is enduring artistry. On Spotify, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain has over 180 million streams. On YouTube, fan-moded videos of his performances, grainy, black-and-white clips from the Johnny Cash show or shaky cell phone footage from recent concerts have hundreds of millions of views. Comments read, "I'm 23 and this destroyed me. I don't even like country music, but this is soul. He's singing about my breakup. This is the miracle of Willie Nelson. He transcends genre, generation, and geography. His music is not classic country. It is classic emotion, universal, unfiltered, undeniable, and in a world where people curate perfect lives on social media, Willie's raw honesty is a revelation. He didn't hide his pain. He sang about it. And in doing so, he gave listeners permission to stop pretending. His voice doesn't need enhancement. It doesn't need remixing. It simply is thin, trembling, real. The therapist in song, How Nelson Healed a Nation for Decades. Therapists, grief counselors, and hospice workers have used Willie Nelson's music as a tool for emotional release. His songs don't cheer people up. They don't offer solutions. But they do something more powerful. They validate sorrow. In a 2021 study published in the Journal of Music Therapy, researchers found that patients dealing with heartbreak responded more deeply to Nelson than to any other artist. One participant, grieving a divorce, said, "I played Always on My Mind every night for a month. I didn't want to feel better. I wanted to feel like I wasn't crazy for missing him. Willie made me feel sane." Another, recovering from loneliness, said Angel flying too close to the ground helped him face the ache of isolation. "It's like he walked into my life and sang about what he saw." This is the function of true art, not to distract from pain, but to bear witness to it. Willie didn't sing to fix people. He sang to say, "I see you. I've been there. You're not alone in this way." He became an accidental therapist, his voice a kind of sonic empathy. The influence on pop culture? Willie in film, fashion, and memory. Willie Nelson's image and music have become embedded in American pop culture. In The Sopranos, Tony Soprano plays crazy while driving, lost in thought, a moment of quiet male introspection. In Orange is the New Black, a character sings on the road again in a prison talent show, turning heartbreak into humor. In The Crown, Princess Diana listens to After the Fire is Gone during a moment of loneliness, connecting across class and culture. In advertising, his voice has been used in campaigns for brands like Tractor Supply Co., Coca-Cola, and Jack Daniels, evoking tradition, strength, and romance. His fashion legacy endures. The bandana braids and denim shirt he popularized in the 1970s remain staples of Americana style. Designers like RRL, Ralph Lauren, and Huckberry have cited him as a muse for rugged, classic Americana style. His stage look, no rhinestones, no gimmicks, has influenced artists from Chris Stapleton to Post Malone. Even his luck, Texas Rancho, former baseball field turned music venue, has become a pilgrimage site. Though the official concerts have slowed, fans still visit the grounds, leaving flowers, notes, and small gifts at the gate, a shrine to a man who turned a private sanctuary into a public celebration. The language of love and loss. How Nelson mastered the poetics of heartbreak. Willie Nelson didn't write all his songs, but he was a genius interpreter, a man who could turn a well-crafted lyric into a visceral experience. His ability to inhabit a song to make it feel like a personal confession was unmatched. Consider the opening lines of Always on My Mind. "Maybe I didn't treat you / quite as good as I should have." It's not a song. It's an apology, and Willie delivers it with such quiet intimacy, as if speaking directly to someone he hasn't seen in years. or yesterday when I was young. There are so many things I would have done, but I didn't when I was young. It's a meditation on regret. Not dramatic, not angry, just sad, or angel flying too close to the ground. I can't fly no higher, I'm grounded by the pain. It's a lullaby for a broken heart. The melody is soft, the guitar gentle. Willie sings it as if already dreaming, already gone. These songs are not melodramatic. They are minimalist romances spare in language, rich in implication. And Willie's voice gives them weight. The voice as a national archive. Willie Nelson's recordings are more than music. They are cultural artifacts, documents of American life in the mid to late 20th century. They capture the emotional life of the working class men and women navigating love, marriage, and heartbreak. They reflect the evolution of country. Music from honky-tonk to outlaw to Americana. They preserve the sound of a changing South, moving from rural isolation to urban growth. They chronicle the epidemic of heartbreak in a post-war world where love was both idealized and fragile. When historians study the emotional landscape of modern America, they will listen to Willie Nelson. His voice is a sonic archive of the American soul, its hopes, its failures, its quiet endurance. The Library of Congress has recognized this, adding Red-Headed Stranger and Stardust to the National Recording Registry, a collection of recordings deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The Paradox of Joy, when Willie smiled, though best known for sorrow. Willie had a wicked sense of humor and a love for upbeat music. He enjoyed performing. On the Road Again, a playful anthem of the touring life. He danced on stage, joked with hosts like Johnny Cash, and laughed with his band in private. Friends described him as funny, sharp, and full of life. He loved to cook, throw parties, and play guitar with his kids. He also recorded gospel songs and up-tempo country tunes, like Whiskey River, showing a lighter, more resilient side. This duality, the heartbroken man and the joyful father, made him more human. He wasn't just a vessel for pain. He was a man who laughed, loved, and lived even when it hurt the family. Blood, music, and the Nelson legacy. Willie's legacy lives on through his children and grandchildren. Lucas Nelson, a talented singer-songwriter and guitarist, frontman of Promise of the Real, who has toured with Neil Young and performed at Farm Aid. Micah Nelson, a multi-instrumentalist and visual artist who performs as Particle Kid and collaborates with his father Amy and Paula Nelson, members of the country duo, the Nelson Sisters. Lucas has said, "My dad wasn't perfect, but he was real, and he loved us. That's what matters." The Nelson family has also fought to protect his image, ensuring that his music is used with respect and integrity. The final interview. Willie on life. Love and singing. Willie gives few formal interviews in his later years. But in a 2023 radio appearance, he was asked, "What do you want people to remember about you?" He paused, then said, "That I sang from the heart, that I tried to be honest, and that I loved my kids more than anything." When asked about fame, he said, "I don't care about being famous. I care about being heard." These words, simple, humble, profound, capture the essence of the man, the immortality of a single note. To 2024. Scientists at the University of Texas launched a project called The Voice of the West, an AI study analyzing the emotional resonance of rural vocalists. Willie Nelson's voice was found to trigger the highest empathy response in listeners, more than Merle Haggard, more than Chris Christopherson, more than Chris Stapleton. Why? Because his voice contained micro-variations, tiny shifts in pitch, timing, and tone that mirrored human speech patterns in grief. His voice didn't just sound sad. It behaved like a grieving person. This is the science behind the soul. Willie isn't just a singer. He is a biological instrument of empathy, his vocal cords tuned to the frequency of human sorrow. The lasting silence. What happens when the voice stops when Willie Nelson eventually passes? The world won't just lose a singer, it will lose a witness. A man who had seen the worst of life: poverty, divorce, addiction. Lawson still found beauty in song. A man who could stand on stage, weathered and strong, and silence a room with a single note. A man who proved that truth is more powerful than perfection. And now, in the silence after his final breath, his music remains. It plays in pickup trucks, in nursing homes, at funerals. At 3 a.m., when someone can't sleep, it plays not because we miss him, but because we still need him. The final word. The man who never left Willie Nelson may one day die, but he will never really leave. He lives in the strum of trigger on a back porch, the silence before the F. Final note of blue eyes crying in the rain. The tears of a fan hearing on the road. Again, for the first time, the strength of a man who sings his songs while missing someone he loves. He was not a hero. He was not a saint. He was a man broken, brilliant, and brave enough to sing the truth. And in doing so, he became immortal. So play the record, turn off the lights, close your eyes, and let Willie Nelson sing to you one last time. The anatomy of a voice. The science and soul of Willie's singing. Willie Nelson's voice is not classically beautiful. It isn't smooth or powerful, but it is emotionally transcendent, sound shaped by time, smoke, heartbreak, and wisdom. His baritone, thin and nasal, defies conventional standards of vocal excellence. Yet it carries an unmatched depth of feeling. Scientists and vocal coaches have studied his phrasing for decades, noting how he manipulates time, pitch, and breath to create intimacy. Key characteristics: rhythmic freedom. Willie doesn't sing on the beat, he sings around it. Like a jazz improviser. He'll delay a word, stretch a vowel, or pause mid-phrase to heighten emotion. Vocal texture. His voice has a weathered quality: cracks, breathiness, and subtle tremors that make it feel human. Not manufactured dynamic restraint. He rarely raises his voice. Instead, he draws listeners in with quiet intensity, making sorrow feel personal. Emotional intelligence. Every inflection serves the story. There are no empty notes. In blue eyes crying in the rain. He sings the line, "I hate to love you so much," not with anger, but with resignation. A man who knows he'll keep loving despite the pain. This wasn't technique. It was truth. And that's what made him one of the greatest vocal storytellers in history. The songwriter's soul. Poetry in simplicity. Willie Nelson didn't just perform songs, he wrote some of the most enduring lyrics in American music. His genius lay in economy. He didn't need metaphors or grand declarations. He told stories with simple, direct lines that cut to the soul. Take crazy, I'm crazy for trying, and crazy for crying. It's not just a love song. It's a confession of emotional helplessness. Or On the Road Again, I want to wake up in a city that never sleeps. A celebration of movement, loneliness, freedom, all in one line. Or Funny How Time Slips Away. I've made up my mind, it's better to be lonely. A lie we tell ourselves when love slips away. Nelson didn't write to impress. He wrote to bear witness, and in doing so, he gave voice to millions who had never been heard. The Bakersfield and Outlaw sounds Nelson's musical identity, though born in Texas. Willie Nelson helped shape two revolutionary country movements, the Bakersfield Sound and Outlaw Country. He admired Buck Owens and Merle Haggard for rejecting Nashville's polished production in favor of raw, guitar-driven honky-tonk. When he returned to Texas in the 1970s, he brought that spirit with him, but he went further at Armadillo World Headquarters in Austin. He fused country with rock, folk, blues, and psychedelic influences. He played alongside Janis Joplin, Jerry Jeff Walker and Chris Christopherson, creating a new genre, progressive country. His 1973 album Shotgun Willie marked the shift, looser, grittier, more personal. Then came Red-Headed Stranger, 1975, which stripped country music down to its bones. Just voice, guitar, and silence. This wasn't rebellion for shock value. It was artistic liberation, return to authenticity in an age of artifice, and in doing so, he redefined what country music could be, the guitar that spoke. The legend of Trigger. No instrument in country music is more iconic than Trigger. Willie Nelson's battered Martin N20 classical guitar, purchased in 1969 for $750 at a pawn shop in Houston. Trigger has been with him through every major moment of his career. It's been repaired countless times, neck cracks, body patches, worn frets, but Willie refuses to replace it. Why? Because it sounds like home. Trigger's tone is warm, slightly nasal, and perfectly matched to Willie's voice. Over the decades, it has developed a unique character, each dent, scratch, and repair, adding to its soul. Willie once said, "Trigger doesn't play me. I play with him." He treats the guitar like a living thing, talking to it, sleeping with it, even taking it to the vet when it needed repairs in 2014. The Country Music Hall of Fame enshrined Trigger as a national treasure, scratches, duct tape, and all. It stands not just as an instrument, but as a symbol of endurance, loyalty, and imperfection. The touring machine, life on the road. Willie Nelson didn't just tour, he lived on the road. For over 6 decades, he performed nearly 150 shows a year, earning the nickname the hardest working man in country music. His band, family, has remained remarkably stable. Paul, English drummer and lifelong friend, who passed in 2020. Bobby Nelson, his sister and pianist, who played with him for over 50 years until her death in 2022. Micah Rare, bassist and musical director. Mickey Raphael, harmonica player since 1973. Their chemistry was telepathic, tight, intuitive, and full of joy. Willie didn't fly commercial. He traveled on Honeysuckle Rose, his private tour bus, and later, his private plane. Named after one of his early hits, he once said, "Home is wherever I'm playing tonight," and fans believed him. The final years, a warrior to the end of it in his 90s. Willie refused to retire in 2018. At age 85, he released Last Man Standing, an album reflecting on mortality and survival. In 2019, Ride Me Back Home explored themes of aging, animals, and legacy. In 2022, A Beautiful Time, released when he was 89, showcased his undiminished creativity. In 2023, he toured with his sons Lucas and Micah, performing classics and new songs under the stars. He faced health issues, mycosema, hip surgery, heart treatment, but kept going. When asked why, he said, "I don't know how to stop." He didn't make music to be remembered. He made it because he had to. And in doing so, he became immortal. The legacy, why Willie Nelson will never fade, because truth is timeless, because the working man still exists, because a voice that sings from the soul will never fade. Willie mattered because he spoke for the voiceless, the farmer, the addict, the lover, the wanderer. He didn't glorify poverty. He didn't romanticize prison. He just told the truth. His music wasn't escapism. It was connection. And in a world of curated images and manufactured stars, that's revolutionary. The final reflection. The man who sang the truth, Willie Nelson, may one day die, but he will never really leave. He lives in the strum of Trigger on a back porch, the silence before the final note of Angel flying to close to the ground, the tears of a fan hearing Yesterday When I Was Young. For the first time, the strength of a man who sings his songs while missing someone he loves. He was not a saint. He was a sinner. And that's why we love him. So here's to Willie Nelson. Outlaw who changed the game. The poet who stayed real. The man who sang like a storm and lived like a legend. And as long as there is a guitar, a highway, or a heart that refuses to be tamed, Willie Nelson will still be singing.